Welcome back to The Making of. I'm your host, Jack Pitts, and today I'm joined by Ari Jacoby, co founder and CEO of Concentrate AI, and Zach Moskow, founding GTM and Ops. Concentrate recently launched out of stealth after raising a $5.1 million pre seed round led by True Ventures and RRE Ventures. The company is building an LLM gateway that gives teams one API to access over 130 plus AI models, manage spend, reduce downtime, and add security and compliance controls as they scale AI products. I'm really excited for this one, and let's get into it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ari and Zach, for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, it's a lovely Tuesday in New York City. But yeah, let's get into it. So would love to kind of have you guys tell the audience. I'm gonna inform them on, Concentrate, but would love to hear it on your guys and your background and what you're building today. Yeah, we can start with Ari.
Great. So Zach and I are building Concentrate AI. By background, this is my fifth venture-backed company, so no other marketable skills. Concentrate is an LLM orchestration business. So we've brought all models under one roof with a pretty heavy, I would say, governance and compliance focus, really buttoned up functionality, not only for regulated industry, but for any business that cares deeply about privacy and security. And our sense is everyone should.
Definitely. Especially, what is kind of your bread and butter, like customer? If you could pick out, hey, I want this customer. Obviously everyone, but
I think the focus right now, I think that changes over time, but like our, what we'll call like ICP, I think it's really just AI native companies. So a lot of folks that have a .ai domain, if you will. But like some of these folks could spend $1 million a year if they're a YC company that are, two guys in their parents' garage or something, as opposed to some giant companies might spend the same and they have hundreds of employees. So AI first is probably the best, but like seed, Series A, Series B, like as we're getting going, like we launched officially out of stealth last Wednesday. So I would say that's sweet spot.
yeah, no, that makes total sense. And would love to hear your background, Zach, as well. I know we got Ari's, but you obviously were chief of staff at Point 72, did some consulting, had a lot of events, friends with my friend Chris. WashU, but would love to hear from yourself as well.
Yeah, I was WashU undergrad. My brother also went to WashU, so it was a family affair. I'd always done a bunch of like web development stuff, like in high school and in college. So that was kind of a fun side thing I did. I had a business in undergrad. Yeah, we did live events, like concerts, nightlife, private events, and then I actually majored in entrepreneurship. And so I've always been interested in startups, businesses. The consulting out of undergrad was in the tech consulting space, was actually going to various copper mines around the world. It was kind of a crazy first job to have. Do like computer vision. That was like computer vision and ML. Like we had NVIDIA cameras that wasn't like, that was like the first foray into like NVIDIA we had heard of. There was no LLMs at the time. And then, worked at Point 72, worked in like strategy, ops, product roles, and the chief of staff role. And then left that in about a year ago and then teamed up with Ari and Todd to work on Concentrate.
Yeah, no, and that's awesome. And would love to hear kind of Ari. I know you and Todd have done, 5 ventures together, just, crazy, and just shows the partnership. Definitely a marriage as well, almost.
For sure.
But like, how did you guys come out? I know you guys recently exited, what was?
Stealth, yeah.
Yeah.
And launched publicly.
Yeah, but the one Deduce
We sold Deduce in January of 2025 to Check.
Yeah. And how did you guys come up about, Concentrate AI? Obviously, I know initially I talked a little bit earlier about, hey, you started out as GPU cloud.
Yeah.
Like, similar, but, how did you even come up with the idea?
Yeah, a couple things. Deduce was an identity security company that's, ingrained in our blood, all things security. It turned out at the time, using LLMs in production was a pretty tricky exercise for things that really mattered. The resiliency wasn't there. We've made a tremendous effort at Concentrate to focus on multi-cloud resiliency, and we're there. And so that was sort of a wrong that we wanted to right. You're right. When we started Concentrate, we weren't in the LLM orchestration space. We were building a GPU cloud. And so we had...
What is a GPU cloud, just for the audience who might not know?
Well, Amazon has a really large GPU cloud, for example, and Oracle has one, and great companies like Nebius have GPU clouds. You hear about, there are many. There are 50 to 75 notable GPU clouds of real scale. The one that we built early on as a proof of concept was not at real scale. We had 400-ish GPUs. We figured out how to rack them and stack them. Our background was at one point we were running a huge percentage of CAPTCHA security across the internet, even on edge case sites like Ticketmaster.
Wow.
So, we're pretty good at running our own iron, pretty good at racking and stacking these things. And we did. And we realized like that wasn't the business that we were going to be in. The business that we were going to be in was really about the pull we were getting from customers asking us like, hey, like this stuff is starting to cost a lot of money. Like, how do we figure out the spend management side of this? Or, we hear there's legislation coming similar to privacy legislation. How do we handle the governance and the compliance here? That sounds like it's going to be tricky, right? Do we have to do things like logging, and do we have to have audit trails here?
Yeah.
Are we going to need a vendor that has SOC 2 like you guys do at Concentrate? Are we going to need ZDR endpoints because we have really important and really private workloads? And like, how do we do that? How do we get that going? And so we thought to ourselves, like, yeah, we don't want to be in the undersized neocloud business. Like that doesn't make a lot of sense. We want to be at this different layer where we can, affect the most change, help the most folks. And I think that's what we're doing. If you look at Concentrate, and we're early, we just launched officially last week, but of course we've been at it for about a year. We're really saving our customers a lot of time and money.
Yeah.
And that's where we want to be.
100%. And how do you save them time and money? Like, obviously, I know there's the compliance side of things where it's like, hey, I don't want to make sure we're compliant with here and there. And then I know, obviously, like token spending is getting out of control. A lot of companies are having, hey, you could spend $2,000 a month, whatever it was. It's kind of like token maxing. Now it's token saving.
We've gone from token maxing to what we call compliance maxing.
Yeah.
Or just being like a prudent business owner or like steward of your.
Exactly. Yeah. It's definitely like the fine in between where it's like, hey, like, and would love to hear, like, you want to use these best in class models. Obviously, Fable 5, when it was out, like everyone wanted to get their hands on it. But how do you manage that between like, hey, we're using the best in class models, or we're actually optimizing where it's like, hey, let's use, GPT open source because it's.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, well, you raised a couple good points. I would say first, so starting as a GPU cloud provider, that whole business is like renting of space, renting of capacity. So like if you wanted to run and host your own open source, which some of these open source models, you can just host yourself. Great model. It's very cost efficient. But if you want to use any of the other, let's say 149 other leading models, you wouldn't want to host yourself. So most of our customers, when we were in that space, were really focused on like hosting one model for themselves. Everyone started coming to us and like asking how we can support them and like as you need, like pay as you go, as needed, like inference basis, not like renting and hosting your own. So the whole difference between GPU cloud provider to this pivot was, how do I get any LLM on demand? So there was no like right model for the right task. Before, if you were going that way, it's like, hey, I'm going to host my own XYZ open source model. Let's say it's GPT OSS. And like, you're essentially committing to that. Same thing in like AWS, you can host your own model on like SageMaker, but then there's nowhere to go to use any of these other models. So Concentrate is the place you can go to get access to 150 leading models and open source models, and you can switch the same second. Like you said, you have 40 different uses of AI in your product. Probably half of them you could use GPT OSS, and you could spend a penny per query instead of literally 10 times for 10 cents for a leading model. Most people just default to the leading models, frankly, because like we're taught with this behavior of subscription plans where everything's essentially free or the same price. You don't even notice the price, but everything has a cost. It's like if you're filling up on gas, some people are trying to, use it efficiently on the highway at, 55 miles per hour instead of like stop and go or flooring it, like to try to get the maximum out of every dollar. But with our platform, you don't necessarily need to do that. You can find the right model for the task. So our thinking, and we just updated our site, is you can find the right model for your task. We think there's usually something better, faster, or cheaper. That's the thinking. But we save folks time because they don't have to manage models themselves. We save them time because they don't have to manage 30 different like vendor relationships. Someone new taking you out to lunch every week. For us, it's let us handle kind of the vendor relationships. And that way you can get access to every model. And I would say Concentrate is the best LLM gateway because as opposed to going direct to these providers, like you can focus on building your business. That's like the side of it. That's like, how do we be efficient? How do we grow? And engineers don't want to be dealing with, provider relationships. That's like the last thing on their mind. All they want is a reliable tool that they can use, that they know they can be building that they can be building the software they want to be building. The challenge is before they're managing infrastructure. So if it boils down to one thing for us to answer your question, it would be not managing infrastructure and not managing 30 providers. And like, it's one bill, one API. That's kind of the whole pitch.
That's it. That's it. I think it gets down to shareholder value. It doesn't matter if you're a team of one or a team of 100,000.
Yeah.
Right. Ultimately, you would love to build the revenue in your business. And some folks would like to ultimately exit that business or take that business public, and they're just not going to generate any form of shareholder value dealing with all of these infrastructure issues, right? Running a sprint to plug in the latest model as opposed to having it done for you. Like, why do that?
That's not even a
lower rung task. Like, do you want to dig into various consoles and try to figure out what you're spending, or would you like a dashboard that describes your spend in real time so you can stay between the left and right parameters, right? Do you want to worry that you're going to get a nasty gram from a lawyer from a risk mitigation perspective because you might be exposing personally identifiable information to models because they're out there, right? Or do you want to sleep well at night, right? Like, these are the fundamental questions to ask, whether you have shareholders or not.
Yeah, totally. And it's like, hey, this is one less thing I have to worry about.
You got it.
You know, it's like, you guys take care of this. If anything else happens, I'm going to yell at you guys and, work on my business.
Yeah.
Obviously, nothing will happen, but just like.
Now we become, as they say, the throat to choke. And it's a blessing and a curse. But that's why every day we're focused on uptime, reliability. Like, it's on us to then deploy the models faster. But if hundreds of companies are doing this, or thousands, why not have us own it so we give time back? It's kind of a situation where some of the best problems in business come from hearing the same theme over and over and over again. That's the whole value. If we can solve it for them and they don't have to take it on, it's one less thing. It's like coming back to the GPU cloud provider. That was like Amazon's whole thesis. They needed hosting. They needed to have, on demand, being able to spin up clouds. And all their customers wanted this as well. Everyone was saying, hey, I don't want to manage my own cloud anymore. If I can pay, someone else to do it and it'll be better. That's the other thing. Our goal is not just to be like, hey, can we do it in the fast, cheap, quick and dirty way that saves them time? It's like, can we do it and do it really well? And we can, because it's literally the only thing we're focused on. That's the value. Just like how AWS, manages GPUs and inference in cloud for literally millions of companies. Like, can we do that for inference, as we're calling it? So like, Concentrate is the one API for AI inference. That's how we're kind of positioning it.
Totally. That's awesome. And so obviously you guys have over 140 models on there. Like, you guys have been building in stealth for a year. You just launched publicly, raised 5.1 million. Like, what's kind of your guys' game plan? I know the team's still small, growing. Like, what do you guys think about? It's like a strategy to go forward, go to market, like obviously get the product better. Like, where's your guys' head at right now?
Yeah. I mean, Zach can talk to go to market, because he's an expert there. I mean, from a strategy perspective, I think this is the right time and right place for this business. Everyone was talking about token maxing 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We're introducing the lingo compliance maxing because everyone's going to need to talk about that.
100%.
Right. There are over 2,000 bills going through all of the state capitals in the United States of America. Every single state, from Maine down to California, right, or over to California, is considering how any business should handle itself online if it uses any models. And if you remember, this is kind of what happened in the privacy world. Every single state had something to say, and you were playing whack-a-mole. You're like, oh, here comes Maryland.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, like, what should we do with New Mexico?
Yeah.
Right? And strategically, we just want to help businesses make that simple. We don't want them to have to think about it. We don't want them to have to play whack-a-mole. We want to give it to them. And I mean, I don't think we've even talked about it yet, but enterprise technologies have always been incredibly expensive, right? Like, you could buy this regular pen for $1. Oh, you want the enterprise version? That's $15.
Yeah.
It's the same pen,
100%.
right? And so we said, whether you're a team of 2 people or 100,000 people, you're going to need these enterprise grade technologies, and we're just going to give them to you for free. You can have them for free. You just buy your tokens through us, and tokens are at face value.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not paying more for tokens, and you're getting all of this scaffolding and support for free. And that's the strategy. It's not a big secret what our strategy is. Our strategy is to save people a bunch of time and money. And that's why we show up at our desks at 6 o'clock in the morning every day, fired up to do it.
Yeah, no, I love it. And especially with like what you said, the over 2,000 bills, like how do you guys stay up to date? Like with all that? And it's like, hey,
Yeah.
a new compliance has come and you have to do that back end. So I'm not chewing you out, the next morning.
Well, I think every company has a culture.
Yeah.
Every company has its own heartbeat. Our very first hire in this business was a data privacy officer, and that'll tell you a lot about the way that we think about our business. And she's up to date all day long on everything that's happening coast to coast and internationally.
Yeah.
Because don't forget, lots of other countries out there.
Yeah.
Right? Are we GDPR compliant is a question you have to ask all the time. Like, why do we have to be GDPR compliant? We only have business in the US. Oh,
And Concentrate is officially GDPR
we are
compliant.
officially GDPR compliant plus. We've got someone that looks after that all day long.
Well, the other good thing is that it's not like there's 2,000 bills hitting us in the face, every day. It's like
Right.
that's what exists in the market. Also, it's not like they're quote unquote like past.
Right.
Either. Also, they're not a big thing we talk about is they're not unrelated to each other. So it's not like you have 2,000 features in a product. It's probably probably 5 or 10 common themes. Because like logging, there's things that you have to store data for purposes. You have to be able to remove data. You have to be able to redact data. Like they're very common. They're sensical things. It's slow moving.
Like, do you have guardrails, for example, that can redact data? PII data, PHI data in the healthcare space, PCI data, all forms of payment data.
Things that you wouldn't think if you're using the direct APIs. Like Concentrate is a useful platform when you're moving from just using like an OpenAI developer platform or API key to wanting to like mature your product. So like, again, as you mentioned to us, like as you're developing your business, like maturing and growing, you want to use more APIs. You don't want to just be doing something like, halfway. You want to actually be using the latest and greatest and actually be using like a tool. Again, it's kind of also like podcasting. It's like you want to move from GarageBand and mics to a proper tool that they've thought about all these different features. Like that's pretty much what it is. It's just like a natural progression because our ideal customer is not someone who's probably just learning to use AI. They're welcome to use the platform and they'd get great benefit, but to get the full benefit, to understand why Concentrate's the best LLM gateway and really uniquely positioned, is you want to actually be moving up the stack and you want to get the value. So if someone was using 5% of our features, probably not the best fit, but if they want to explore many models, if they want data redaction, if they want logging, if they want to essentially save themselves time from integrating 5 different tools, most people didn't even have the tooling that we're offering. So it's not like they're like bringing together the 5 or 10 different tools they were using. They're just like limited in what they can do. So it's kind of an unlock, like we talk about like aha moments, seeing what's possible in the platform. It's not a case of them moving from all these tools to us. It's like they're coming to us and they're like, I need to grow my business. Can you help me? And we can help them scale. That's when we talk about rate limits as well as a concept that you might be limited by capacity.
Yeah.
So like you as a business, if you're just starting out, you literally OpenAI might only let you buy $100 worth of inference a month or something.
Yeah.
Overnight, you can't just flip a switch if you're like a YC company and you go viral to get $10,000. So some companies can leverage our capacity or even supplemental capacity. Some like huge companies use us that already have a deal maybe with like a Gemini and they want additional capacity when there's like the spikes and they can get that through us as well.
And, we should actually spend a minute talking about multi-cloud resiliency. That's a very fancy expression.
Yeah.
You know what it means, really? Like, help me eliminate downtime. There is so much demand on every one of these intelligence providers that they go down sometimes, right? I mean, the demand is like
unprecedented.
Unprecedented. So they go down sometimes, and that's to be expected. Now, if you're one of our customers and you are running workloads in production, maybe these are agentic workloads. Maybe you're running a chatbot, for example, or your product, as customers use it, consumes AI services in order to provide back responses and move it along, right? So you can't go down.
Yeah.
You can't be down because it causes embarrassment. It causes folks to leave your service. It causes lost revenue. And we have spent a lot of time figuring out, well, great, you're a new customer on our platform and you use 3 or 4 different models, how do we make sure we route to the next available platform that hosts the identical model so you experience no downtime?
Well, that's a good point there. People before, I would say the LLM gateway space historically have, had a lot more downtime. So think about it, when one provider goes down, people have often been like, let's say if GPT-5.5 goes down for 5 minutes, they often are like plugging in, hard coding, like let's route to Opus 4.8. But Opus 4.8, although both of these are awesome models, they have different personalities. So we're trying to introduce, and we're not the first to do this, I think we do it particularly well, but can we fall back to the same model? So the same prompts, none of that has to change. So it's the continuity is a lot better. So think about our feature here takes the same model, like say, one of these providers has a lot of load, then they have an outage or something for a couple of minutes. We fail over to the same model on another provider. So that's what we call fallbacks. That's not like, hey, let's use a different model. Hey, let's try to figure something else out. It's very simple in practicality, but how it's done isn't so simple.
Yeah, and it's also equally relevant for coders.
Yeah.
Right? One of the dominant use cases we see across Concentrate is actually building software, right? We're Cloud Code compatible, we're Cursor compatible, we're compatible with a lot of harnesses, frankly. And if one of those goes down, you don't want to have idle hands, right? You don't want to be twirling your thumbs.
Yeah.
Right? You just want to keep going.
100%.
And we make that possible.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that point, where it's like you don't want to be stuck on one provider because, say you are a startup and you're only using Claude and then you're down. It's like you're not working for, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes. Who knows, however long they're down for. It's just, something that you have to have on your radar.
And I think you're bringing up another really interesting point, which is, the point of vendor lock-in. You don't want to be in a position where you're only working with one model provider. I mean, some are and some do it brilliantly. And that's okay if that's their strategy, so long as they have multi-cloud resiliency. You want to access all of the available models, and we don't ultimately know who the winners are.
Yeah.
Right? We're not going to know for a couple of years, and there's going to be multiple winners, but you certainly don't want to sole source from one model maker, right? You've got to distribute that risk, and we afford that possibility easily.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. Where it's just like you can use the next best in class model where it's like, hey, I'm not even going to realize it's using Gemini 4.8 when, I was using GPT 5.5. And would love to kind of just learn like a lot of the audience as well, like how do you guys stay up to date with AI? Like I've been listening to the AI Daily Brief, but X is great, but how do you stay up to date with it and learn and like continue to be at the cutting edge of AI? Because it's hard for me still. And, you're building a product every day, but, your product is being on the cutting edge.
Yeah, it's nice to sit on top of a token dispensary.
Yeah.
If you sit on top of a token dispensary and you've got, best in class folks like Zach and the rest of our team that are capable of building utility based automations, it's a little bit easier. I think the world is whizzing by right now. It's very, very hard to know everything that's going on, but if you build the right automations and you're willing to spend the tokens to keep the team abreast of the most important information, you can surface those things, right? Bubble up that information, deliver those, those payloads into places like Slack, and the whole team's better off for it. I mean, I'm sure that we're not the only folks doing that.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, I would say X, awesome.
Yeah.
I also would say you can't keep up with all of it, nor do you need to be successful.
Yeah.
I think that, LinkedIn is fine. I think that everything that's on X gets to LinkedIn probably 2 weeks late.
Yeah.
So you'll get to it eventually, but I would say don't try to be on top of everything. It's probably the best advice I can give. Like figure out like what you're interested in. Do you want to know about developer tools? Do you want to know about this or that? And then just read I could see at the Wall Street Journal the news today about, Cursor's acquisition by SpaceX being, a next step towards completion. Like you don't have to be on X to read that. I think just wanting to learn is enough. Like you could spend 10 hours a day doing that if you're, on your commute in the morning and the evening, seeing a little bit of news on X and some like themes I think are good. There's probably 4 or 5 people I would recommend following. I could share those after, but I think just wanting to be in the news is good. Like as far as like actually like business wise and speaking, like, yeah, we have tons of automations that are deployed in terms of the models that are released, and having like tools like Manus and whatnot, give us insight into who our providers, who our competitors are releasing, who we're releasing, who is coming up in the news, who came out of stealth, like who we need to reach out to. That's a new like mini, GPU cloud provider, or a new mini open source provider as they grow. So, it's a difference between when we need to find partners and suppliers and when we need to just learn what's going on in the market. But I think just being interested and like acknowledging that is half the battle. And just, like with anything, I'd rather be taking in news and like excited than like crazy overwhelmed, because you'll hit a point where you just say, forget all of it and I'll just do nothing.
Yeah. Right. News bankruptcy.
Yeah, totally. How are you guys using Concentrate AI in your everyday workflow?
I would say Concentrate. So the thing about Concentrate is just the equivalent of like getting any intelligence directly from the provider. So it's, for us, we use it a lot in coding. I would say that we're not building software necessarily. Like our offering isn't just a software platform. Our offering is the core API infrastructure. So we're using it heavily, I would say mostly in coding. So in Claude Code, because we can leverage our supplier deals, we get better rates, so better tokens back, essentially is how we view it. So we save money instead of getting a markup from like Cursor is a great platform, but they have a token markup because that's how they make their money. And we can use our platform to save a ton of money and to use open source. Like certain platforms, again, Claude Code, Codex, they don't offer any other models besides their own. So there is no like cheap open source option. Same thing for a Cursor. They may from time to time offer one, low priced open source, but I would say we heavily rely on open source models like Minimax and Kimi and Quen to do a lot of our work. But we do have some features that are coming up soon in the platform as far as like alerting, dashboards, spend insight that is powered by our platform. But we're an API, so our entire focus is building. So I would say number one is generating code.
Yeah, there's an old expression in the business like, will the dogs eat the dog food? Our dogs eat our own dog food. That's that's for sure. What we preach out there is that there's always the right model for the right task, the right workflow inside the right industry. And we live and breathe that every single day. We have access to all 150 models. We understand intuitively their strengths, some of their weaknesses, where they excel for us and for our particular needs. And we do our very best to pass that on to our customers. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, but we absolutely practice what we preach around here.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I guess the hardest part for me is being someone who was using all these models, just like, hey, Fable 5 came out. Obviously, you can't use it anymore, but like, obviously, it was pretty great with the agentic stuff that it could do and not being as guided, but like, really knowing, hey, how is GPT 5.5 better than 5, and just seeing those small differences.
Yeah. And
it's just hard for me.
Well, you know what? At Concentrate, we've built a bunch of diagnostic tools to help our customers really understand which prompts perform best in which models, with model recommendation tools, prompt recommendation tools, and the like. I'd say that's just another way for us to help our customers save time and money.
Yeah. You can build your own eval framework. You can pop us into any. We had an event during Tech Week and been partnering with Prompt Layer. They're another great tool specifically just for finding the right prompt and how to like tweak a prompt to work well with different models. Concentrate's integrated. So if you want to use their platform, you can use any model across any prompt that you're creating. But I wouldn't stress again as much. There's this like hype on X that's like Fable 5 came out. Let's move all of our workflows there and optimize and hype. Like, I think if we stopped developing and releasing any AI models right now, we'd still have, 3 to 5 years of like catch up. So I think if you're learning how to use or thinking about how do I use any additional models or providers, most people, we gave a presentation over the weekend at a product management meetup. It's like only a third of the room had ever even tried an open source model. So I think just trying you're good. Like, I wouldn't get caught up in the stress of like, oh, Fable 5 came out, I have to move everything. Like,
yeah,
it's almost like early adopters, like let people flesh it out. In today's day and age, generally it'll take a month till you'll learn, but like you don't have to be first to be really good in this space. Totally. So I would just be like, I would stay calm and I would just try stuff out and like take your time. But like there's still, if you're just asking like what else is out there, what else can I try? Like you're I think ahead of the pack.
Awesome. Yeah, no, and that's great. And the last question here is like, what excites you guys for the future?
Everything. There's tremendous demand.
Yeah.
right? And it's fun. It's fun. We're hearing from folks in almost every industry, native AI companies, especially, which is, the audience that we mostly cater to. And they want to try a bunch of different models, and they know that there are various models that are best for what they're specifically doing. And they don't want to run around like crazy people plugging these things in, and they want to save time and they want to save money, right? And they want to create shareholder value, right? Why would you do all these administrative AI infrastructure tasks and burn hours a week if it can be done for you better? We're just hearing a lot of excitement around those general themes. And I think, right place, right time.
Yeah.
It's an amazing time to be in business.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited just to save customers money is a big thing.
Yeah.
Some of our competitors charge like pretty hefty like service fees and like what we call like a tax. I think we're going to see a big shift in the industry away from these like aggregators or gateways similar to ours, from charging like a big surplus fee. I think we're going to lead the charge on a lot of that, because I think that there's so many competing models out there that the gateway is the logical place to get that. It's like you come to Costco to get all of your groceries and everything that you need for your pantry, because you don't want to go to 20 different stores. And there's no downside. It's actually only benefit. So I think we're going to see a lot more interest in the market in general, and a lot of like larger companies switching to a gateway, also because they don't want to be locked into one contract. So I think I'm excited to see the new businesses that come out. I'm excited to see the new features and stuff. I think we're going to see an explosion of like really good like use cases and like quality of life improvements in apps. Also, as Apple comes to the next stage and like Siri and AI, like they've been developing and been quiet for a while, and now I think we're going to see with the recent release and upcoming, I think it's going to be really interesting to see I think not just business, but like personal quality of life, like the cool stuff that comes out. That's what's exciting.
And you heard it here first. We're going from token maxing to compliance maxing.
I love it. Love it. Well, awesome. Well, I'm super excited for the Concentrate team to, make a killing.
Thank you.
Excited to be along on the journey.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yep. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for having us.
Cool. We'll cut it here. Awesome.
And that's a wrap for this episode of The Making of, hosted by Jack Pitts. Huge thanks to Ari and Zach for coming on. I've personally been using Concentrate AI, and it's been amazing. If you're building with AI models, managing token spend, or thinking about really reliability or anything related to compliance, definitely go check out what they're building. I'll put the link in the description to Concentrate AI. And thanks again for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.